Boundaries. That's where we're going this week. That's the theme, boundaries. So, do you have boundaries? Do you know your boundaries? Are you really clear on your boundaries? Do people around you know your boundaries? Like, what are boundaries? It's like what's okay with you and what's not okay with you. And can you communicate them clearly? Again, do the people around you know without a shadow of a doubt your boundaries, not to cross them? And do you know others? Do you respect other people's boundaries as well? So it's a big topic. As always, we're going to put it in about 15 minutes here. So this is really a week of self-reflection and asking yourself that, do I have boundaries? Do I assert my boundaries? Do other people know my boundaries? Like, am I really clear with them? So you could be a boundary queen or a boundary king, or you could be a boundary disaster. And I relate to that one. I was a boundary disaster for many, many years. And it's because mainly for me, anyway, my experience is because I was a people pleaser. And I so badly, needed validation or acceptance from people around me. And that's why I was a people pleaser. And there's no boundaries in that, right? I had preferences, and no boundaries are really created the same. You can have boundaries, or we can have preferences, and you can negotiate those. And I was always pretty good at that. But it was the real, non-negotiable boundaries. I might have said, oh yeah, no, no, that's a non-negotiable, but I didn't know how to assert it or stick to it. So this has been a journey for me. And this is where I want to go this week, because what I've discovered over the years of learning how to set my boundaries and assert them and follow through with them, and teaching other people how to treat me, I had to learn how to treat myself. And that's where the self-reflection comes in. And something that I know for sure is that boundaries, in order to set healthy boundaries and assert healthy boundaries and to stick to your healthy boundaries, you have to have a really healthy relationship with yourself. And, back in the days when I was a big people pleaser, I didn't have a healthy relationship with myself. I didn't even know who I was because I was just pleasing everybody else. I lost who I was. So boundaries, none of them really matter unless you're setting boundaries with yourself and sticking to them and following through. And that really comes down to having a healthy relationship with yourself. So this week, I'd love everybody to just do some self-reflection on that. And that, self-reflection really equals, in the end, a healthy relationship with yourself. If you're not willing to go in and reflect on, you and how you're living your life, yeah, it's going to be a boundary disaster. So this for me, and this is where I'm going with my personal development group this week. We're going to dive deep into boundaries, but it comes down to balancing. What I say comes down to balancing three things. Balance your doing with your resting and your self-care. And if any of those are out of balance, you're going to have a really tough time, first of all, having a healthy relationship with yourself, but setting boundaries and being really clear and communicating them. So what does that mean? Like, you're doing, right? Everybody does, right? Whatever that is, whatever your work is, or whatever you're producing in this life, whatever whatever you're doing today. What are you doing today? Right? That's your doing. And you need to balance that with resting. You have to rest. And resting can be, yes, sleep, but it's your downtime. It's also, rest. And for me, a lot of my rest comes in my meditation and my earthing and my connecting with nature. That for me is rest time, as well as, taking time to rest my body. And then there's self-care and I mean, meditation can also fit in self-care, but that's more, the exercise, balance your body and doing yoga and self-care, whatever, doing what you love. So this week is about, self-reflecting and going inward and going, am I a boundary queen or am I a boundary disaster? And then what do I need to balance within me? Doing, resting, or self-care. And if even one of them is out of balance, then that's up to you. That's that self-reflection to bring it in. Because when our boundaries are not set and they're not clear, so I'll use myself for an example, being a people pleaser. If somebody asked me to do something, I didn't even think about it. It was like, yes, somebody asked me, right? Because my mind at the time was like, if I don't do it, they might be mad at me, right? Or I don't want somebody mad at me, or if I don't do it, even though everything in my head was screaming, no, you don't want to do that, but I would do it. So I didn't have this mechanism, this pause where I could be like, do I want to do that? Like and feel in. So over time I learned with boundaries, to buy myself some time and just say, well, wait a minute, I have to think about it. Thank you for thinking of me, but I'm going to just think about this, right? And then, I had that opportunity to go, do I really want to do this? Right? And that was my process, which, we're going to go into a little bit more in our personal development. But you don't have that pause if you don't have these boundaries set with yourself, right? If you're just doing, yep, I'll do it. Like love my mom. My mom was an amazing woman. She was a doer. She was a doer. She was also really good at self-care, right? She loved her exercise. She loved her yoga. She loved, being with people, right? She knew how to take care of herself in that sense, but she didn't know how to rest. Resting? What was that? I mean, she'd be up till midnight making sure she was still doing, right? But that was my role model, shall we say. So I had to also self-reflect and go, am I resting? No, I'm powering through just like mom did to make sure, everything gets done and everybody's happy. So that's where I knew and that's where I find, okay, what's going on? I love what I do. So in that sense, I can really do a lot. When do I need to sit back and go, okay, I need more rest? I'm also really good at self-care too, but I need more rest. But maybe your situation is different. Maybe you're going, yeah, I know how to do and I know how to rest. But do you know how to take care of yourself? Like self-care. Do you know how to take care of your body? Are you eating right? Are you, exercising? Are you doing those things that are caring for yourself? So this is again a week of self-reflection. And there's so many benefits to this self-reflection and finding the balance between those three things, the doing, the resting, and the self-care. And there's so many benefits to it. But what's really relevant this week is it does give you that ability to learn the pause when you're responding to a request. And just I'm going to think about it, right? Buy yourself some time. And then when you learn how to self-reflect, am I balancing all three of these? You're in a much better space to set boundaries, to stick to your boundaries, to know yourself and know what your preferences even are. Again, for me, I didn't even know what they were. As long as I was pleasing everybody, I thought, well, that's all I need. Oh no, I was a boundary disaster and my life reflected that. So that's what this week is. So let's do some movement. Let's tap this in. Let's go into the self-reflection mode. So again, this is, I mean, right here, just bounce. This is a form of self-care. Let's get into our body and just the reflection time. No judgment of ourselves, no judgment of our boundaries. Maybe you are a complete boundary disaster, but you got to reflect on that. You got to own that, take responsibility for that. Like just, oh yeah, I'm a disaster. How am I gonna find some structure here, some balance? Okay, so shake out. And then so easy enough. Three things. What's out of balance for me? doing, resting, self-care. And if you're going, oh, I got all that. Okay, let's march this out, march it out, and just touch the opposite leg. Then you're going, all right, then I've got all three in balance. Now I can really take a look at, boundaries I need to set for myself and stick to them. And when we can set boundaries for ourselves and stick to them, we get to really learn. Let's tap in here. Oh, when we can set boundaries and stick to them, let's go all the way down and tap and practice with ourselves. Not only is that self-care and self-love and self-respect, but how can we expect others, let's rub our hands together, to respect our boundaries if we don't even know what our boundaries are, or we don't even stick to our own boundaries? So underneath the eyes, and how about respecting other people's boundaries? If we don't even know how to respect our own, are we respecting other people's boundaries? So it's really key. Again, healthy boundaries, healthy relationship with yourself. So just tap in here, ground your energy. Okay, self-reflection. Am I finding some balance here in my life? And just breathe that in, ground your energy into your body. Let's come to the collarbone point. Okay, what are those three? They're easy enough to remember. Balance my doing with my resting and my self-care. And when you self-reflect, you sit and you be perfectly honest with yourself. You go, what is out of balance for me? And then from there, when you realize what's out of balance, let's go into the thymus. You go, okay, this is where I'm going to set some boundaries for myself. If my rest is out of balance, and I'm speaking from my own experience, I got to set some boundaries for myself. I got to make sure, I stop working or stop my doing at a certain time, even though might have things to do, or even though I love what I'm doing, I need to rest. So, I set those boundaries. What am I going to do for that? And then stick through, follow through. I'm important. Rest is important for me. I love myself enough to give this to myself. But I don't know. Sometimes I just go, go, go. That's where Blair's really good for me. He helps me, hey, wait a minute. Where's your balance and resting? And then I'm going, oh, yeah, that's what's out of balance for me. That's why things seem to be going a little bit crazy, right? So having friends or partner, someone who can help you with that and, help you just get back to that place of self-reflection so that you know it's out of balance. And then you set those boundaries from there. You metabolize it in. You go, okay, well, what do I need more of? Self-care? Let's cross it over. Do I need more rest? Maybe you need to do more doing, right? Again, I come from doing, doing, doing. A long line of women who do, 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 do. Okay, so, but that might not be yours. Maybe you go, I got resting and self-care. There's more things. Maybe you're a procrastinator. So it is just so much about setting your boundaries for you, so that you can, this is really what self-love and self-care is all about. And from there, when you learn to stick to and set your own boundaries, you get to know yourself, you get to know your preferences, you get to know your worth. You know you're worth it. Then you just you can be a boundary queen or a boundary king, and you set your boundaries and you stick to them, and you do it in a really healthy and loving yet assertive way. And that's how we bring a balance and happiness and self-care and self-love to ourselves. So that's what this week is all about, self-reflection, right? Do you have a healthy relationship with yourself? What about your boundaries? Are you a boundary queen or are you a boundary disaster? And then you start with your own boundaries. Balance your doing with your resting and your self-care. And then you ask, okay, what boundaries do I need to set to respect me and love me? And then practice those. Okay? Have a fabulous week, my friends. Have a fabulous week of inner reflection and boundary setting, and just get to know yourself just a little bit deeper. Know who you are. All right. Namaste.